Buzz, babies, and welcome back to another episode of Blake's Buzz. This week, I've got two rock star creators in the house. I am such a big fan of the comics and the work they're putting out. I've got Hugo Award-winning, best-selling author Sarah Gailey in the house. What's up, Sarah? I've got comic book rock star. She's on all the covers. She's in all the books. She's just everywhere, baby. Liana Kangas is in the house. Oh my God. I cannot believe you two agreed to do Blake's Buzz. I'm sorry, and I'm totally thankful, but I'm so stoked to talk to you both. I am a big fan of both of your works. We'll get a little bit more into this, but I love. It's funny in the green room, folks. We were talking about taxes and freelance and money and the government, and a lot of these books that these two insanely talented creators are making are about like giving power to the have-nots and literally eating the rich, from which I can't wait to talk about. Eat the Rich from Boom Studios. But what we came to talk about, basically, how this originally came to be, was Know Your Station. You two came together. Somehow, you got Liana to do interior works. Because I mean, she's doing all the covers and stuff, and I miss the Liana interior pages. So I'm very excited when they pop up these days, because it's like, I feel like the cover artist gig is like the sought out, like, it's like that's the job you want, right? You still have crazy deadlines, but they're maybe a little bit more manageable. And or maybe I'm totally wrong here because I'm not an artist, but how did you get Liana on interiors, or was that like a Boom deal, or like, Sarah, did you send like gift baskets, or like what? How did this happen?
Well, I can't give away all of my secrets, but I will tell you that at a certain planetary alignment, if you make a blood sacrifice at exactly the right crossroads, you have a 1% better chance of getting to work with someone as amazing as Liana on your interiors. No, we were match made by our editor, Elizabeth Bray at Boom Studios. Elizabeth said, I know who we need for this book. I know who is going to be able to carry this story visually. And I could not be more thankful to whatever miracle of circumstance made it so that I got to be the person who that landed with. Because, I mean, working with Liana, you've seen Liana's art. Their art is stunning and spectacular and gets better every time they make something, which I think is nuts. Every time I make something, I'm trying to still be good at what I do. And every time Liana makes something, the craft level just expands and gets better and more exciting and more interesting. And I'm kind of just like hanging on to that rocket ship with a death grip. I'm like, I want to see what they get to do next.
I agree. It's watching Liana's, the vibe and the colors are there, right? That color palette, that very like Lisa Frank on acid color palette, that I love so much, and it just like it makes your eyeballs burn in a good way, right? You have to squint when you look at those covers and those pages sometimes. But Liana's voice is very prevalent, but it does, they change, and they like the details and the character work and the way faces are animated, and then like looking at the new covers for Blacksmith from Ahoy that you're doing with on Eric's book. Eric always has been on the show a few times, always speaks very, very highly of you, by the way. I told him I would say that. Please tell him I said, no, I'm kidding.
I will. Listen,
it's great.
I wish I knew all I had to do was join Blake's Buzz to get complimented for an entire hour. I would do this more often. That's great for my ego. I don't know.
Like, that's how I do it. Yeah. It's everybody. A couple people have told me, like, when I do the intros, like some people are like, can you like do my outgoing voicemail? Can I just like call you when I'm having a bad day? No, I'm known for high energy and being positive, and I love comics. I really, really love comics. And the grad school nerd in me, when I used to pay a whole bunch of money to get to talk to writers and artists and do like guest lectures and stuff, like I thought that was so cool. And now I get to do that, like I get to do that, and I'm in like control of it. And so it's as I mentioned before, like I'm very, very lucky. I've been so lucky in my in my podcast career, and now I get to say comic book career in a way. And it's because of awesome people like you both that give me the time of day, that come on my show. I know talking to weirdos like me helps move books, helps build awareness and stuff. Right. But you know, I also know that there are deadlines and people get busy, and you know, especially when you're not familiar, you know, you're not always familiar with the host and the platform, and you know, so I get it. And so I just always appreciate it when you all give me the time of day, and that makes me excited. And I'm hoping that excitement, like, you know, blasts out of me through the wires, through the internet, into people's wallets, that they can then empty into Amazon or the local comic book shop or whatever means necessary to pick up some of the awesome books that y'all are making. And as I mentioned, y'all are making some awesome books. Know Your Station. I loved, first of all, just like, I don't do solicits a lot because I think they give away too much sometimes. I get why they're needed and helpful with pre-orders, but I like to kind of go in like dumb, right? And just like, I'm a blank, empty space, just ready to absorb whatever is spilt on the pages, right? And so this beautiful, quirky, drug-induced whodunit just like flew in off my radar and like rocked me from issue 1 to 5. No weak spots, all bangers, all slaps, all the time. Like, every panel was strong, writing was strong, art was excellent. You both did such a great job, and I could feel that you guys, it felt like you were vibing really hard. Like, both of you really enjoyed working together. Like, that seeped through the pages. And if you both happen to hate each other, then you're doing a great job faking it. Like, it's
hiding it. Yeah.
Yeah, we do have a blood
villains. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I know you mentioned when it starts in blood magic, you never really know what way it's. If I've learned anything from Dragon Age, it's that, you know, it'll help you get to the final boss, but at what cost, right? There's always a cost affiliated with the blood magic, but sometimes that cost gets you Liana Kangas interiors. So like, you gotta take the risk, but risk or comics
worth the lifetime of spiritual warfare.
Exactly. That is high praise. That's better than anything I could come up with.
And they wonder why I keep coming back to keep collaborating. So,
well, good. Whatever needs to happen to keep the magic alive, because I really hope that with as busy as you two are, like, I hope in the hopefully near future, I would love to see you both do more projects together. It's just I want it. The people want it. Comics need it. That's how I think about that. But like, Know Your Station, the trade's out, right? So like, everybody you can go get the trade. You can hunt down the singles if you want. If you want some, there's like some great covers and variants you can get. It's from Boom Studios, 5 issues. It's about artificial. Well, it's about a lot of things, but a lot of it's about artificial intelligence. And it was weird. I read this a few months ago, right, when we initially planned to do the interview, and then things got delayed because of con season and stuff. And I read it again to make sure it was like, you know, at the top of, you know, I wanted to be like fresh and dressed to impress, right? And I just couldn't help but think about like all the current discourse in artificial intelligence. We're bombarded with it every day, and you know, as you know, Liana, as an artist, like, you know, it's like your voice is in danger, right? From this like villain in vacuum on the internet, like coming by and sucking up all your hard work so that some untalented nerd can put in a fucking sentence and spit it out and use your artwork, right, without paying you. And it's terrifying, and it's sad, and it's hurtful to the industry, and it's hurtful to you all. But it was interesting reading this comic, because there are definite notions and threads that you're playing with that echo into the what we're seeing in history right now, right? But you both give a lot of like hope and heart and a second chance to artificial intelligence too. Like, you don't cast out Bridget. You keep her in this, you know, you let her have friends, you let her have a community, you let is there like
doing spoilers for this podcast?
I mean, yeah, it's
I just want to make sure.
We can't. Spoiler alert! If I say something, sorry, but the book's been out for a while, so it's your fault for not reading it, audience. You should have read it a long time ago. You should have bought all the issues and the trade already. But yeah, it's like, do you all have like? Is that like a kind of commentary or a metaphor? Like, do you have hope? Like maybe that this technology could be used for good, or was that just like? This was like this organic means of storytelling that worked for us, and like fuck what's happening in the real world right now. Like was there what kind of balance are we trying to strike here? I was really interested in that.
I mean, I think that I don't want to speak wholly for both of us on this, but I can share my point of view, and I think Liana and I share a lot of opinions in this direction. Otherwise, we wouldn't have been able to make this book together. I think by the time we got to the ending, we were at a place where Liana would have been like, "What the fuck's the matter with you?" I mean, the thing about artificial intelligence, both the idea of true artificial intelligence and what we're working with now, which is really like language modeling, and and predictive text software and like autocomplete on steroids, is that the AI is not the villain. The AI is not the thing that's stealing art and trying to monetize that theft. They're human beings who are doing that. The AI is doing...
Hate the user, not the tool.
Yeah, the AI is doing what it's programmed to do and what it's built for. And that doesn't make AI bad or evil or irredeemable. And of course, in this story, we built an AI in St. Bridget who is like lovable and your friend. And we
until she's not.
Well, until she's not. But if she's not your friend, maybe you need to do some reflecting.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah. On this mortal coil.
Do some deep soul searching.
But yeah, we don't get rid of people in our communities, even when they do things that are wrong, especially when the wrong things that they do are out of a sense of necessity or inevitability. We don't get rid of the people who are part of our community. We find ways to fix the circumstances that make them do the things they do, even if fixing those circumstances happens to mean a handful of very specific, very wealthy people meet an incredibly violent end.
Now,
it
Liana,
helps everyone.
when you were looking at these scripts, Liana, the stuff I've seen from you isn't really as violent as you all went. And I mean, there are very like scenes that like reminded me of like Seven, right? And like these like really intense, like horror fueled crime scenes that are so explicit in nature that there's like a story behind them, right? There's reason there. We find out later it's art, right? And what was it like for you to take those scripts and make them real? Like, were you kind of into it? Like, were you like, oh, this like I was something like you've been wanting to try and experiment with, or did you have to like go into like a dark place and like leave your office of like the bright colors and the beautiful like organized shell? Because I've seen your streams from your awesome like home office, and like it's just so vibrant and like it some of this seemed like not your style, but had your style displayed horrifically, and it was just like it was really cool to witness. And I was wondering if it was like a challenge for you, or if are you like one of those cool kind of broken sick puppies like the rest of us, and you were just like, no, I loved going to the dark places, I want to keep going to the dark places.
I'm definitely broken. For those who don't know or haven't been following me for a long time, I'm actually a really huge horror fan. Like, I love horror movies. I grew up going to like Halloween horror nights. I love haunted houses. I love ghosts. I love aliens. I love everything. And just because my environment reflects, like, what's interesting is like, I think a lot of my environments reflect a lot of the work I do, because I really like bright colors and utilizing that to convey interesting moods and tones, because I think saturation really helps enhance like, the intensity of like emotions and feelings. And this book, particularly, like I haven't done a lot of gore in my work before. And so when Elizabeth had asked me if I was interested in the project, I said yes. But we originally had a meeting, me, Gailey, and the rest of Boom. And get one of Gailey's first questions, like before we knew each other, was how comfortable I felt in terms of like the detail and the level of how fucked up this book gets, honestly. And I was like, I don't know if I really have like a hard line in terms of certain types of gore, like body horror. So it was a really interesting way to explore my work in that area and also get feedback for it from both Gailey and our editor Elizabeth, who was incredibly helpful in terms of specifically the murder scenes. Because this was my first work, it was really nice to work with them in order to make it make it very iconic in a way. And yeah, I loved working at it. Who knew? And yeah, I again, like most of the comics I read, outside of my regular like watching movies and stuff like that, a lot of comics I started with were like Johnny the Homicidal Maniac and
nice,
outside of like manga and things like that. So and 30 Days of Night and stuff that was coming out at that time. So yeah, it's nice to finally get to draw horror.
I love that you were able
to could when you look at my work,
Yeah, well, and like I said, like even your the covers you've done for like Blacksmith and stuff too. I can tell there's like that spark in you, right? But it's you don't do as many interior pages anymore, and I get it because like the schedule, or then like you get signed on for America, and then you have like hundreds of pages to draw all of a sudden, right? And so like your schedule fills up quick, and so you got to be, like the way you pick and choose projects is probably like exhausting, and I don't like I'm not jealous of that at all, like because I feel like especially like for Kickstarters and stuff, I know it's very cool of you to, and I know people pay for it, but you do the occasional like Kickstarter cover, and I don't know if I'm sure you do realize it, but like the audience, people listening, like when a big artist like Skylar Patridge or Liana, like when they come in and do a Kickstarter cover, like that helps the team so much. Like it's a big selling point. It's a big image to promote the book, and it kind of just gets more eyes on it. And in the crowdfunding scene right now, that's, everybody wants to keep talking about the algorithms, and like, yeah, the algorithms are a problem, but being seen in the crowdfunding sphere right now, just because it's so widely populated, and it's harder and harder for people to get seen. And so when you offer your services to like the indie side of things, I just think that's like so insanely cool. And I know that as you get busier and busier, it gets harder to do stuff like that. And so like, I just want you to know, like, people like me who get it, see it, and respect it. And again, I just want to remind you that it's people like me in the know who are legit. I'm going to make this all about me. No, but anyways, like I've seen some of the darker vibes in your covers, but nothing prepared me for what you two brought to the kitchen and Know Your Station. And Sarah, like, one of my favorite tropes is the unreliable narrator, and you did such a fantastic job with this with multiple like there, who could we rely on really until like the final issue, till because I mean, we have this artificial intelligence that like we are hesitant to trust, because we see Saint Bridget pretty much through the gaze of a drug addict, and even for a short time recovering drug addict. But I mean, recovery is no easy process, and it's not like you're at full bore during recovery, right? So it's like we can't ever really know who to trust, what's real, what's happening. And even with that, it's still like progressing from panel to panel, from page to page was just effortless. Like you do nothing about this book makes you want to set it down. Everything about it makes you want to experience it. Like you all are so lucky that you can go get this trade right now, because you can sit down and just have a wild nutso fucking ride for a couple hours and just like and just accumulate it all and sit in your chair or lay back on your couch and just be like, holy shit, man. And like, cause that's how it is. And I won't spoil the ending, but like that big splash in the, oh my God, the final page was so lovely and intensely fucked up. And like, it was just like, I was just like, all of my emotions were just pulled everywhere. I was like, oh my God, this is incredibly sweet. And I believe in second chances too. And also this is terrifying. This is horrific.
My Blake's Buzz pull quote from you is holy shit, man. So just saying.
Well,
hey, if you get a second training, you can put that on there. Like, I'll allow it.
The journey we took with that final splash was such a blast, because both of us were
days.
like,
yeah.
Oh,
wow. Both of us were like, I don't want this collab to be over. And so we kind of sat on that last page and kept
sending
about
like
it.
little tiny like edits and stuff to you, and I was like, how's this? What do you think?
Yeah, and every edit I was like, ooh, I love this. But it was like, I don't know, I like to end issues on a splash, both because I'm a big splash page fan. I like my big formative comics reading experience was with Blade of the Immortal, which is like the splash and 2-page spread king of comics for me. And I also love the way that a splash page can be like a plot punchline. Splash pages are an opportunity to really like nail a story beat. And so we were like workshopping the punchline of this series for so long, and we're able to make it so collaborative. And that last splash page, I feel like, is like our little baby that we made. I just look at it and I'm like, wow, it grew up so big and strong.
It is the pinnacle of like how we we were talking all of the time while collaborating, and so it was like the finale, which is awful because we didn't want the book to end, obviously, but it was truly like I have to give Gailey so much credit. They are so patient with me being like, constantly sending ideas or questions and like wanting it to be more of a collaboration than I think some artists take books. And I think one of the reasons why I love collaborating with Sarah is because we get to be on the same page all the time and like work that page out.
Nice. I love this story because it both like really shows. I love how neither of you wanted the book to end, right? You wanted to like keep working together and up to the final page, like the little like baby step edits, right? To both like prolong the process and to really make a strong, because the finish was strong. Like it was there, like the book itself is full of strengths and a powerful, wonderful read. But like it's, I get to read a lot of comics and I'm on a lot of press lists, and I get too many comics to read a week than I have time to read. And but I'm very lucky in that regard, and I get to see a lot of new stuff coming out. And it is rare when that final page, whether it's the end of an issue or the end of a trade or the end of an arc, when it knocks the fucking wind out of you, when it's just like you feel it in your guts and your bone marrow and like your nerves like tingle, like it just like I felt it, and it was so visceral and creepy, and like I said, the mixture of emotions, which is where great horror comes from, right? Like to truly scare someone, you need to make them laugh, you need to make them feel comfortable, you need to make them feel loved, so that when you take all that away from them and send them to the dark place, it's even darker and worse. It's strategic, but it's smart writing and smart storytelling from both of you. You both did it like absolutely flawlessly, and I love the extra time that you spent getting to know each other and make that last page what it is, because I mean that's gonna go down. I mean, people better be talking about this book for a long time. If not, then people need to be reading better comics. I don't know what to tell you out there, listeners. Read better shit. But it's you just really understood the assignment, right, as the saying goes, and the payoff was just absolutely huge. And I expect nothing less. I would have been irritated if you guys shit the bed on the ending, right? Like you're both really strong storytellers, and you have really great, powerful careers and name recognition, and people know you, and you bring the goods. And so to get both of you together, right? It was like, ooh, this is gonna get real, right? And so like you kind of had to pull it off. You both didn't have a choice. Like, did you ever feel like any of that pressure? Like, or when you get like the collaborators you want and the cool story you want, and you're taking it to these weird places, and do you ever like get pressured? And because the comic got well reviewed, like as the issues were coming out, and do you ever get nervous? You're like, oh, did we pull it? Did we pull it off? Did we make it happen? Or did you both feel like confident in it, where you're like, no, we fucking landed this shit. This was the moon landing if it really happened. We're not getting, as a joke, we're not gonna get, I'm not a weird conspiracy theorist.
Okay, I will say my favorite moon landing explanation is that it was faked, but Stanley Kubrick was so committed to the excellence of his craft that he faked it by actually developing rocket ships and sending people to the moon and filming them there.
I like that.
I think for me personally, it was like, oh, sorry.
No, you.
I was going to say, for me, it was a roller coaster because when I was brought on, I didn't know Sarah at all. Oh, okay. And I was terrified, like, performance anxiety of like sending in like what I want to be my best work ever. Also working with Boom for the first time. Also finally getting to work with Elizabeth on a long-term project. And so it was like a trifecta of like full-blown anxiety, which is great for working, honestly. Just like bottle all that up and like put it on the
page. Yeah.
But by the end of it, it was like every page by the time we were talking like every day, it was like, oh man, we fucking killed this. Like, this is so fucking good. And like both of us just like hyping each other up, but then also being like, can't wait to see the pages from Rebecca, and like freaking out like constantly. It was so great. And like, I think I remember when Sarah, when you messaged me about the final script or whatever, and you were asking me questions and we had like a call, and I think you kept asking me like how I felt about it. I was like, no, dude, this is so fucking good. This is so fucking good. Like every time I was like, I don't even know what else to say. I was like, this is fucking genius. So it's nice to have a collaborator that treats you as equally. That's like, oh my God. And like Gailey would send me like screenshots being like, I love this so much. And I'm like, oh, I love like, reinforcers. Like,
yeah, the validation is real. Like it's definitely nice.
Mm-hmm.
Especially in comics where it can feel like you're screaming into the void a lot, right? So when you find someone you can work with and like and you're texting and emailing all the time, and you're not annoying anyone, right? And you're like, they're as excited to hear from you as you are from them, and you're both excited about the same project. I love hearing all this because, like I said, you feel it when you read it, even though it's kind of dark and weird and like I said earlier, drug induced, right? You can tell that you were both at a good place and comfortable with each other. I mean, that's why the weirdness works in the book, is because you two could get weird with each other, kind of, right? Like you were like I'm a weirdo, so is my co-creator, and everybody's fine with it, and we're gonna make a weird fucking book and people are gonna love it. Like, it just all the powers combined. It was like Captain Planet.
I mean, that's what makes for good work, is when you have someone who encourages you into your most extreme narrative excesses. Every time I pull back in something that I'm making and I try to appeal to like normies, every time I'm like, okay, a civilian will be able to relate to this, I end up making garbage. And when I'm working with someone who's like, no, make it weirder. I like this weird flavor you're doing. Do more of that. It ends up being better. And Liana encouraged me so much as we were working on this together. Every time I would be like, I don't know if my work is good enough for Liana's art. Liana would be like, I really like what you did in the script. And I'd be like, okay, we can write another one.
Nice. Now, when you're doing prose, when you don't have that, I mean, I know you have like an editor and proofreaders, and you probably have like your circle of like creative friends that you share stuff with, right? But like when you're writing your prose and it's more of like a solitary deal, how do you judge that, like that weirdness level that we were kind of just talking about, where like when you don't necessarily have someone like constantly sending you emails and encouraging you to kind of like push the boundaries and take, you know, different narrative risks and stuff, like are you able to push yourself, or do you rely on your editor, or like, because it's interesting, like, because you have your fucking best-selling author, award-winning author, you have like all these huge achievements on top of like making some really dope comics now, right? But prose is definitely a different animal to wrestle with than the collaborative nature of comics, and so how do you bring out your true self in your prose?
I mean, it's kind of a combination of both, right? I absolutely rely on my editors. Every good editor who I've ever worked with has said, here is where I can see you holding back, and let's like push it a little further. But also, prose is so solitary as a craft compared to comics. In prose, when I'm writing to be in conversation with the story. In comics, I'm writing to be in conversation with Liana. I'm writing a prose a script to say, hey, Liana, what do we want to make together? And in prose, I'm writing to the story. And as a result, I become completely deranged. I become a horrible creature in this exact chair. I just turn into like a demon of idea. And then I remove whatever like brain mucus aggregates inside of that demon, and I put that onto the page, and that's usually like several shades weirder than I'm able to be when I know that another human being is around me.
That visceral explanation was very apropos to your work.
The brain mucus, like I'm gonna remember that forever. It's like good. You got to get it out.
When
you got to sweat it out or get it out somehow, right? You know, and when you can focus it. Yeah. Okay. So that's why you're both so like nice and upbeat and friendly. Is you're like you're constantly getting the brain mucus out like anywhere you need it, and then when you like show up for the podcast and stuff, you're like, I am the world's best human being. Nice to meet you. Okay, I dig this. That's cool. It's when I've talked to other horror writers, when I first started doing interviews, I kind of was shocked when I had some of the comic horror guys on, and because you always imagine them, they're going to be like, everything is pain and hurts all the time, you know, but they're not. They're lively and bright and funny, and then you talk to them and it's like, oh, because they get their demons out in a very organic, healthy manner, and then make money on it, or make some money on its comics, right? We could all make more money in comics, but like, they are able to like make a living on it and get it out to the masses and like make something with it.
They strike me as people that go to therapy, you know, like
they
have their shit together.
Yeah.
Every horror person, every horror creator I've ever met is like the nicest, the funniest, the most talented, and very put together.
That's so true. They should have like TED Talks or a seminar for just like how to human, just like
how to
bottle up that brain mucus,
yeah,
and sell it to me in a back alley somewhere.
I think that the real answer, honestly, is that it's because the bad stuff doesn't take us by surprise, right? Because we're simmering in it. We look right at it and we look deep into it. We flip over rocks and we say, what's horrible under here? And we spend so much time looking at it that it doesn't, like, the bad stuff isn't impossible to live alongside. And so you learn how to be excited about stuff, even with the horrible stuff all around you.
Now I'm jealous. I want the world not to break me. I want to look under the rocks and be like, fuck you, what's under there? I'm Blake Morgan.
Yeah.
I'm ready
Sink into the mucus.
No, that's awesome. Now I do want to talk about some of the other projects you both have going on, because they're also amazing. I think anybody listening knows you should go buy Know Your Station. If I haven't done a good job selling that, I'm sorry, but it's good. But Sarah, you have another cool book from Boom, which really brought me back to a lot of my like childhood teenage angst that I had forgotten about in The Vampire Slayer. And I had forgotten like how much I fucking loved Buffy and Spike and Willow and Angel and like all these. I was so addicted. I was like, it was like Dawson's Creek but vampires, right? And I loved Dawson's Creek too. I mean that as not a low blow. It was just like the childhood soap operas that like just really sang to me. And you just wrapped up 16 issues of that. And it was very cool because you turned it on its head, right? Buffy's not the Slayer anymore. Willow gets the slaying power and has to learn how to. Willow's very much not necessarily a vampire slayer. You turn her into one very organically and seamlessly, or not seamlessly. It was she goes through some shit to get there, but like it was so cool that you took all these characters that we are all very, whether we remembered it or not, it comes back to us and we were like, wow, we were attached to these people. I started remembering bits and pieces of the show that I thought I forgot about, the characters and stuff. Like everybody did things that made sense based on, you know, what I remembered on the show. And the writing was so great. The dialogue was good. It felt like you were writing the show back then. You know, it was like a seamless integration. And the fourth and final trade comes out in December. You can pre-order that. It's in previews right now. So there's 4 trades that for the first 3 are out right now. If you guys want to go check those out, if you've ever watched Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and actually if you haven't, it's just a good vampire comic. But if you're a fan of all of Buffy, like you're in good hands and you're in for a fucking treat. But were you a big Buffy nerd? Like I feel like you're a giant, or you had to be, or either that or you did an impeccable amount of research and put any researching author to shame, like because it was so good.
I mean, I loved Buffy, I think the same way that you're saying you loved Buffy. I was watching it like a soap opera when it was on, and I loved it. And then when it stopped being on, I sort of like stepped away from it a little bit, but it still is so much in the water of contemporary media. I mean, that show influenced everything that came after it. That show like introduced horror and monsters into a lot of mainstream like network television. It brought that like teen soapiness into a lot of network television. I maintain that Buffy walked so that Pretty Little Liars could jog, so that Riverdale could run. And it's in everything. And of course, Joss Whedon had a huge influence on pop culture from that show forward, right? And we've spent a lot of time in the last several years unpacking that influence and saying, where do we wish that influence maybe wasn't present? But it is present and undeniable. And so I think any immersion in pop culture between like 1997 and now, you're interacting with Buffy whether you realize it or not.
Yeah.
But when I picked up this IP to write for, I did so much research. I rewatched so much Buffy. I was reading comics, and it was like coming home in a way. It was like, oh, this show influenced everything.
Nice. I bet that was fun. I like when the research doesn't feel like because I call it like podcast homework. Like when I deep dive into and like, you know, Google y'all and read your stuff. And because I take pride in actually reading the books of my guests. I've found out over the last few months that that's not always the case with podcasters, and that like I still can't believe that. Like people tell me all the time, they're like, Blake, it's so cool you actually read the book. And I'm like, what the fuck would we have talked about for an hour even if I just read the solicit? Like you're gonna find out real quickly, like this dude has no fucking idea what we've worked on. And you know, like there's only so much. So anyway,
again, and you can always tell. You can always tell when the person who you're talking to hasn't touched your work and they're like, I had this one interview. I wrote a book called Magic for Liars a while ago. I did this interview where the person's questions were, so, liars, tell me about those. And magic, what's that have to do with it? And I was like, okay, yeah, you didn't even read the cover copy.
Oh no. See, that's why, I mean, I don't want to act like I'm like the best interviewer ever, but I also know that I'm not the worst. And you know, one of the things about me is like I read the stuff so that like we can just talk and we can have an organic conversation. I think of topics to bring up sometimes, but I'm not one. My friends always freak out like when I interview like a big writer and I tell them, I'm like, oh my god, this guy wrote Batman, and they're like, oh, what are you going to ask him? I'm like, I don't come up with questions. Like that's fucking, that's like that's for the plebes, right? This I talk and I go off of vibes, right? And but when there's dead air, right, and this is pre-recorded, so like if I say something awkward and no one says anything, I could cut that out. But when I do like the live streams, you got to be, you know, a little more creative sometimes. And so like I dead air is like a huge fear of mine. And when I feel the conversation slowing down, like that's when I can hop in and be like, okay, so this part of the book, when you did this, let's talk about it. And I just like, when I found out that like, and it's not just one or two, there's a lot of people that do interviews that like don't research their guests and don't read. And I'm just like, how do you do that? Like, part of me wanted to be jealous because I was like, all the time I could save, but also like I get to read awesome comic books all the time. So like, would I really want to not do that? I don't, but anyways, and I think of you all in those situations a lot too, because it's like you can't call, I mean, you could call them out, but then you're going to be demonized for it, right? They're going to be like, oh my god, Sarah and Liana like just laid into this dude for not reading their books, you know, like, oh my god, can you believe they treated this host like that, who's just like, you know, and they're always going to go after like the guest and not the host for being a shitty host. I feel like to an extent, but you know, so you got to kind of like smile through it and answer the dull questions, and then it's on your shoulders, right? To like, how can I spin this bullshit 5 minutes into a book sale? Like now I got to do, you know, and so like, I think I commend you for having to do that sometimes. And I just want you to know, like, I think of you all when, because I would want to call people out. So but I would be like, well, you know, did you read issue 2? Like there's that moment at the start of issue 2 when this happens, and then just sit and watch and be like, you know, like I would live for that shit. But yeah, anyways, but yeah, so Vampire Slayer is so great. And yeah, the research and love of the culture. Also, like, I would have been scared. Like that's a kind of I don't want to say a hazardous fan base, but a very passionate fan base, to where like if you fucked up, they'll let you know. You know, like they'll come for you.
You know what? I was anticipating that. I was ready for that. But the
really?
Buffy fandom has been so welcoming and kind and incredible. I've gotten, I mean, of course I get like a few things here and there, but like I've been on the internet for long enough that I've weathered much worse. And the comments I've gotten that have been negative have mostly been just like, this isn't the vibe that I want, which is fine. Not everybody wants the vibe I'm bringing. But I think the Buffy fandom has been through battle the last decade or so, and they've gone through so much that at this point a creator showing up who isn't bringing more for them to have to weather is probably quite exciting. Hopefully I can keep that up. And they've been so kind, so welcoming. I got to do a Buffy signing at SDCC, and every person who came through the line was passionate and kind and thrilled to get to share this thing that they love with someone who they were encountering for the first time. It was wonderful.
That makes me happy. That's good, because so many times, especially in comics, like nerds are mean sometimes, and then nerds are so angry too, and it's just like, what do you really, especially now, like there's every superhero movie's not the greatest, but we have superhero, like a continuing like a what's it called, like the line when you're on a line and you're making stuff, I can't think of the word,
like an assembly line.
You have an assembly line of comic book movies that and like Disney shows, and it's just it's nonstop, and whatever you want, you can find it like in or outside of the books. And there's so many comic books right now, both indie, crowdfunding, big 2, big 5, the indie, you know, the bigger indie stuff. And it's just like, it's crazy that I feel like you have to try to be mad in this industry a lot not as a creator. And you creators do a lot of shit, and especially from like weirdness and from publishers and stuff. And I know that there are big critiques and things that the industry needs to work on. But as consumers, it's just like really? Like, we are living in a great time to be a nerd, and everybody just wants to get mad about it. But I'm glad that they welcomed you with open arms, because like I said, like I thought the vibes were there. The celebration of the fandom was there. You really understood the characters. And like I said, there's going to be 4 trades that you all can check out. 3 are out now. Volume 4 comes out December 20th. So you can pre-order it, get yourself a nice little Christmas present. And speaking of top tier cover artists, I don't want to take any of the spotlight away from Liana, but for just a second, Skylar Patridge did the cover for Volume 4, and it's a very, very nice cover. So you got that to look forward to on the upcoming trades. And again, I really encourage anybody who's ever had an interest in Buffy, or if you like, it's also just a great vampire comic. So I mean, dip your toe in the water, pick up Volume 1. It's what's it, $15 isn't gonna make you homeless. It's not gonna put you in a cardboard box outside getting rained on. Get Volume 1, check it out, tell us what you thought about it. Like that's the goal, right? And then Liana has a cool new book coming from I told Mad Cave likes my show a lot, and they hit me up recently. They were like, do you want to interview Liana? And I was like, I'm interviewing Liana next week. What do you want from me? And they were like, oh, can you talk about it? And I was like, yeah, I'll talk about the new book. But yeah, so you are doing Miracle Between Worlds with Matthew Ehrman, and it's a whole graphic novel. And that comes out right October 11th, as long as no paper delays or diamond weirdness, right? Should come out sometime in October 11th or sometime in October. And I've got to read a little bit of this, and it is wild. It's okay. It's wild in that it's not wild. It's so human, but the characters are there's so many non-human characters. Like the character designs that you came up with and drew and populated.
Oh, I actually, Lisa Sturl actually did the character designs for the, there's like 3 or 4 main characters.
Oh, really? Oh, cool.
Yeah. Originally, Lisa was co-writing with Matthew, and then he finished the rest of the book. Okay. It was slated to be like a single issue series, and then they changed it to a graphic novel. Oh. We started this in 2020.
Oh, wow.
So I actually drew that in 2020 through 2022.
Okay. All right.
Right before I did Know Your Station.
Oh, nice. Oh, well, okay. So the character designs are still great, but your line work is impeccable, and like all the these different beings that you bring to life. I was thinking like when they go to the Monster Club, and there's like the DJ with the TV head, and then like all these different like species and aliens, and it's the whole premise is very interesting, because it's this kind of love story about like this couple, Mariko and Rim, have to break up because she can't get this visa. She needs this visa to date her boyfriend. And it's so aloof and quirky, because like, you know, initially the gravity of the situation doesn't weigh in on the characters really, right? Because it's just like there's like a little bit of hope, but also like Rim is very upbeat and like very focused on the positive, you know, and so it's just like, we're together now, that's what matters. And it's like, but we won't be together later. And so it's very, like I said, very human problems. Well, not that we need visas to be like in love with each. Well, I mean, I guess depending on where you're from in America, they'll ship your ass out, you know, for less of a reason. But well, that's a whole different deal. But you know what I'm saying? Like it's a very like a cute love story with intriguing characters and lots of humor, and just very, very human emotions with not human looking people. And again, like I got like, it looked like you were having a lot of fun in this, which is good, because you had a lot to draw if you weren't having fun with it. Like this was it was like 111 pages, 110, something like it's a nice size
it
book.
Might be 120. I don't even remember at this point. And Rebecca also colored that, who was on Know Your Station.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
what do you think of that as someone with as a refined and like known color palette as you do? Is it hard for you to relinquish that responsibility to a colorist, or are you kind of like, no, like, please help me? Like, this is a lot of work, and any
For
help would be
Rebecca, we
appreciated.
both work so well together that
Nice.
I don't think I've ever sent her a note.
Oh, wow.
If I've been allowed to send notes,
Mm.
I feel like she just gets me. So I love collaborating with her, and I'm so grateful that she was on New Year's Station because she made me look great. So can't complain.
Yeah,
She made me look great for Marika too. So
yeah. She did. The colors are just unbelievable that come out of that brain. Like there's a real genius for story movement through color.
Yeah, it's always nice to like have someone's colors paired with like my cover because like we complement each other so well that it's kind of like what you see is what you get.
Nice. And what you see in all these books that we've talked about today is some exceptional storytelling, just across the board. And also I know like kind of running out of time, but you can also get True Cult is out in trade finally that you can get. I know
Phenomenal
that was a big deal.
Book.
It's so good. And another like very just abnormally weird, but in the best way, right? And then I also love like the way you campaigned for that, like what was the Stan Satan shirts or the what?
Read Comics Stan Satan.
Yes,
yep.
Like that was way cooler than my Love More Hate Less Read Comics shirt that I sell. Like the Read Comics Stan Satan is, that's why you make the big bucks and I'm the podcaster though. But that's fine. I will bow to greatness when I notice it. But
equally valid messages.
But I love the way you campaigned for that, and I thought it was very cool that like IDW picked up a crowdfunding book and like brought it to a new audience and hopefully a bigger audience. More people got to experience that because they didn't just drop the trade; they re-released it as single issues, right? And then dropped the trade.
Yeah, we extended it to 5 issues. Yep, okay. And then trade just came out last month.
Nice. See, everybody, you're so lucky on this episode because everything is basically ready for you. Like there's the Vampire Slayer trades, there's the Know Your Station trades. Briefly mentioned it, but Eat the Rich is in trade, and it's a fucking gnarly book about the best kind of cannibalism because like of course people with money taste better and have like reinvigorating bodily fluids. Well, blood. I could have got weird for a second. But that's another great read. There's all these trades are out. You can go buy them and experience them. And then America will be out next month. And I highly encourage you. It's in previews right now. You can pre-order that. Please pre-order comic books, folks. It really helps people. It really helps the creators. It helps the publisher. It helps the comic book shop. It's just good for everybody. I don't know why we got to keep fucking begging you kids to pre-order these comic books. I'm like an old man standing on my front porch waving my cane around like, you young little bastards, like pre-order goddamn books. Anyway, pre-order goddamn books though.
I'll add a little motivation right now, which is that Barnes & Noble once a year has an incredible pre-order sale where you can take half off pre-orders, and that sale is happening right now as we're recording. Wow. I believe it's extending through the release of this episode, and you can order comic book trades through them.
Nice.
So if you want half off, go get half off.
Yeah, that's it. I love Barnes and Noble trades. I like going there. I usually go there for manga. Like I'll go like browse around and try and find stuff that like is sold out online. And my buddy got me into it. Like go hitting up all the Barnes and Noble stores and then buying. Oh, I love manga now. It's so gnarly. I'm really into it. But yeah, anyways, Barnes and Noble's awesome. I do like them. I miss that sometimes, like that feeling of like going into a bookstore. It's a very corporate bookstore still, but it's like that paper smell. You know what I'm talking about?
Absolutely.
That smell. Like I wish it was a candle. I wish it was a Scentsy or something that I could like burn in my house. But okay, so I so appreciate both of you being on the show. It's been such an absolute blast getting to talk to you.
Us. Honestly, so anytime. This was a real pleasure.
If you ever need anything from Blake's Buzz or if you got a new book coming out sometime, happy to have you. One last question. Liana, where's the best place to keep track of you on the internet these days? If you got like a newsletter or something to shout out.
Yeah, you can join Cadence Comic Arts newsletter for any of my commissions or original art drops. And you can join my website, lianakangas.com, and also join my Patreon. My Patreon is the easiest way to get, mail updates. So, and also fun mail.
Real mail, like physical, real
mail
stuff in the mailbox.
Prints and stickers and fun stuff.
Not that PDF shit. Awesome. That is, everybody go sign up. Sarah, what about you? How do we keep track of you online?
Go to sarahgailey.com and you'll find every single possible thing you could want. You can find all my work there. You can find the link to my newsletter, Stone Soup, where I share tons of original content and career updates and guest features from amazing authors. And that's also where you'll find the links to all my socials, which are currently up in the air because of the collapse of Twitter.
Oh my God. Don't get me started on that. Liana's got to go. We don't have time for that, Sarah.
I can't wait to
Thank
catch
you
up
so
again
much
soon, though.
Thank you so much for having us, Blake. This was a real
it was a blast. Honestly, like, I love what you're both doing, and just keep telling great stories, keep being awesome people. Comic books needs more people like you both. I mean that from the bottom of my heart. Thank you so much for giving me part of your day to talk about your books. This is a really cool experience.
We finally did it.
We finally did it. Yeah, it happened.
Have a great day.
You too. Both of you have an awesome day. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Bye.